Will you pray with me? God, may the words of my lips and the meditations of all our hearts be acceptable in your sight, because you are our rock and our Redeemer. Amen. Last night, I was with some family for a late celebration of Terry's birthday. Partway through dinner, one of them turned and asked me, "So, do you have to preach tomorrow?" And I said, "Yep, it's a big day for us." And he said, only politely interested, "Oh yeah, it's Good Friday, right?" "Oh wait, no, it can't be Good Friday. It's what, Palm Sunday?" He's not really a churchy person. And I said, "Yep." And he asked how we celebrate Palm Sunday, and I told him about forays, the palms. I told him about waving palm fronds ourselves. I told him about our kids making art for the Lord out on the sidewalk, about our Dixieland jazz procession through the neighborhood. I told him it was one of our and my favorite Sundays of the year. And he said, "Cool." Again with the polite interest. And I realized that this Sunday we spend so much time on, so long getting ready for. The choirs rehearsing, the chimes preparing, the Christian education team gathering flowers from florists across the city, the organizers planning and working, that this was all to him no more than a quaint tradition. It was like I was telling him what my grandmother always used to cook for Christmas dinner, or how much the tooth fairy pays per tooth at our house. Mildly interesting, maybe cute, maybe fun, and certainly deeply important for those of us who are members of the family, but ultimately of not much import for those who aren't already convinced that it matters. And so I found myself wondering, why does Palm Sunday matter? Maundy Thursday, Good Friday, Easter, for each of those, most of us could come up with a so what for the unchurched, an explanation of what difference it makes to the world. But Palm Sunday? A parade into Jerusalem and the waving of palms and the shouting of Hosanna, what difference does it make? Who cares? Except for those of us who already care. Later on, I was thinking about other parts of last night's conversation, parts that were marked with way more than polite interest. The parts when we were discussing the current presidential election. The candidates up on their stumps, the things they're saying and the things they're promising and threatening, and how the rest of us have been reacting. Now, there was some stuff that mattered to everyone there, the churchy and the not. And I wished I could go back to that conversation, to the polite interest Palm Sunday part of it, and say why Palm Sunday matters, or ought to matter, to everyone who cares about politics, about the future of our nation and the world, to everyone who thinks that leaders of nations matter, and that whom we choose in this election will have deep and lasting impacts on that person's individual life and on our shared life. I wished I could tell my brother-in-law that underneath the pomp and the fun of our procession, there are bigger pictures, deeper issues. I wished I could tell him that what Palm Sunday actually does is reveal to us what we should look for in the leaders of nations. It shows us not just what we should expect our lords and saviors to look and act like, but our political leaders too. Because make no mistake, Palm Sunday marks the beginning of Holy Week, the beginning of the last leg of Jesus' journey, which will end with everything changing and the revelation of God's power in the world. In that sense, it is a religious moment, but make no mistake, it is also a profoundly political one, in which Jesus challenges the power that be in temple and palace, and in which he is revealed as the ultimate outsider candidate for ruler of the universe. And as such, I believe he is the model and measuring stick for anyone who seeks to lead the people. So, because I know my dinner companions from last night would care, and because I know you do too, here's my stab at a list of 10 things about Jesus revealed on Palm Sunday that ought to matter for you in the 2016 presidential election. There are lots of other things about Jesus that ought to bear on your decision, to be sure, revealed at other times and places, but here are the Palm Sunday ones. Number 1, He rides a donkey that's never been ridden. Not some worn old hobby horse that everyone in the world has already ridden to death, or that he's been riding and riding and riding over and over again in every debate. Ask yourself, in what your candidate says and does, is she or he riding a new horse or riding some worn hobby horse they've been riding forever, or worse, are they just beating a dead one? Number 2, when Jesus is around, people become more generous. They give away their cloaks. They throw them on the ground. They toss away their stuff. Here, it's cloaks. Another time, it's princely gifts. Other times, it's the food they had brought and hoarded that ultimately fed 5,000 and more people. Ask yourself this: does your candidate encourage the people to set a bigger table or to build a higher wall? Number 3, he has experience. The people have seen him do deeds of power that improve people's lives. Not just deeds of power that make them feel safer or better, deeds of power that break down their old selves and build them up into new people, that challenge them to go out transformed to transform the world. Ask yourself, have you seen your candidate do deeds of power that make people's lives better in tangible ways? Number 4, the people have experience of him, and their experience of him brings them joy. The whole multitude of the disciples praise him joyfully, the story says, not sneeringly, not victoriously, not viciously, joyfully, because they have seen what he has done. Ask yourself this: does your candidate's track record fill you with joy? Number 5, what he does delights heaven. Peace in heaven, the people say, and glory in the highest heaven. He doesn't just delight people. He doesn't just make the establishment mad. What he does makes heaven itself sigh with contentment and shine with glory. Ask yourself, do the things your candidate does delight God? Number 6, though his disciples are full of uncontainable energy, so much of it that if it were suppressed, they say the stones themselves would start to sing, though they are so full of that energy, the energy that he engenders is not violent. The people are vibrating with excitement, and yet they keep chanting, peace. Later, some of them will go a little astray, to be sure, will draw swords when the authorities come to get him, and will even wound others, but he will not egg them on. In fact, he will tell them quite clearly to put up their swords. So ask yourself, do your candidate and your candidate's actions incite peace or violence? Number 7, he mixes stuff up. It's not in today's reading, but if you read on, you'll see that the next day is when Jesus goes into the temple and overturns the money changers' tables. When he sees exploitation and iniquity, he gets mad, and he turns the world upside down to show it. If need be, will your candidate overturn the tables of the powerful and whip them into shape? Number 8, he weeps for the people. Again, not in today's reading, but the very next thing Jesus does after the end of today's reading is to pause on the Mount of Olives, to look down at Jerusalem and weep for the people, for the ways that they are lost and confused. If you, even you, he said, had only recognized the things that make for peace. Can you imagine your candidate's heart breaking for the plight of the poor? Can you imagine your candidate weeping not only over the poor, but over your candidate's enemies as well? Number 9, he's humble, sort of. He may be the one the people acclaim as king, but it is a modest sort of king. He rides a donkey, no kingly purple draped over his shoulders. There may be cloaks tossed on the road before him, but they are ragged. No music, no grand procession. You'll notice if you read back that it says the whole multitude of the disciples was there and chanting, not the whole multitude of Jerusalem, just the disciples. The scene may have been loud and raucous, but it was small indeed. Ask yourself, is your candidate humble? Number 10, he's willing to die for the people. His first concern is not for security, at least not the kind that can be bought with armies and weapons. He does not defend himself, wall himself in with boasts or bluster or with protectors. He opens himself wide and pays the price for struggling on behalf of the people. Ask yourself, would your candidate die for you? Palm Sunday is beautiful. It is sweet. It is an utter delight the way we celebrate it today. But the truth is, only those who already love it care about that. To be sure, we are worthwhile, as are our opinions, and these things we do matter to us and to God, and that is good. But what happened on the first Palm Sunday is about more than that. It's about palms, but it's also about politics. It's about who leads the people and who ought to, whom we should trust and whom we should choose, whom we throng for and whom we ignore, who delights heaven and who just delights our worst selves. On Palm Sunday, the people chose Jesus, at least for a while, and it was a good choice. The next time it's time to choose a leader, whom will you choose?